Intelligence. When we ask whether animals can be intelligent, we turn to the ones closest to us, related to us, doing similar tasks to us. We don't normally think birds can be intelligent like this. We used to think they just act on instinct. But look again. Scientists are carrying out research showing birds might be smarter than we thought. They make friends. They play. They cooperate with each other. We use bird-brained as an insult. Maybe we've got that wrong. This is Konrad Lorenz. In the 1930s, he pioneered the study of how animals think. He thought that birds act by instinct. Their behavior is wired into the brain. When they hatch, young geese follow the first thing they see. Normally their mother, but this time it was Lorenz. He suggested that what looks like intelligent behavior is really driven by instinct. A goose sitting on a nest reacts immediately if an egg rolls away. She brings it back to the clutch. It seems like an intelligent action. But if the egg is removed, she still continues the movement. Her brain responds automatically to a simple trigger. Even if the egg is replaced with a cube, it still triggers the same instinct, and she brings it into the nest. But can there be more to bird brains than Lorenz's idea of instinct? Bird brains are very sophisticated, high-speed processors. They have to be. Birds fly. A jet pilot needs high-tech equipment and lightning reactions to be this fast and maneuverable, but still can't compare to a bird's mastery of the sky. A bird's processing power is packed into a tiny brain the size of a grape. And birds fly close together in enormous groups without bumping into each other. Formation flying is hard enough with 9 jet aircraft. But starlings do it with millions of other birds. Flying involves complex processing in the brain. But can birds use this processing power to solve new problems? Most animals that show intelligence have large brains relative to their body size, as do parrots. Rio is a 10-year-old scarlet macaw trained to take part in zoo displays. And today he's being given a puzzle. It's called the string pull test. Rio's favorite food, a peanut, is dangled on a length of string. Rio must pull up the string to get the peanut. He's never seen this puzzle before. He doesn't use trial and error, he just does it right away, the first time he sees the puzzle. Rio can see the string and the peanut he wants. Let's make it harder. The other group of birds with large brains, the crow family. Meet Bran, a hand-reared young raven. And his owner, bird trainer Lloyd Buck. Lloyd is going to try the string pull puzzle with Bran. This time, the string is much longer, and the reward is out of sight. Like Rio, Bran has never seen this puzzle before, but he also knows to hold the string with his foot. Pulling up one string doesn't seem difficult for either bird. The Heidelhof research station near Vienna was built for scientists to study how birds solve puzzles. They study crows and parrots. They're working with a type of parrot called a kea from New Zealand. This is John, and he's trying a much harder string pull test. Peanut butter is hidden in a small tube and tied to the end of a string. But now there are two strings. The second one just has a stick on the end. John goes straight to the correct string where the reward hangs directly below him. Now the two strings are crossed. The reward is no longer below the attachment. John must understand the connection. Again, without trial and error, he immediately pulls the right one. Even with the strings and rewards swapped around, John pulls the right string most of the time. He understands that the reward is connected to the string. This shows that birds can solve problems by thinking about them. But the way a bird approaches a puzzle is influenced by where they come from. New Zealand. In the wild, kea live in the high mountains, where food is scarce, and the kea must find it wherever they can. Sometimes they just strip berries from shrubs and bushes. Other times they search for insects. They only find enough to eat by being adaptable. Any new situation might provide food, so kea are very inquisitive, as the tourists soon find out. Kea don't seem afraid of anything. They evolved on New Zealand, where they had no predators. Until humans arrived, there was nothing to threaten them. They could explore whatever they wanted to, and still do. This is very different from the other superbrains of the bird world. Ravens and the rest of the crow family evolved alongside big predators. Like Kia, they must find food where they can. One option is to steal it. But wolves and coyotes are dangerous, and ravens must be careful. This makes them very suspicious of anything new. Compared to parrots, ravens and the rest of the crows have a very different approach to solving problems. Augusta von Bayern from Oxford University works with New Caledonian crows. This is Whack. She wears a collar as she recently lost her mate and was pulling her feathers out in her grief. Like most crows, Whack mated for life. Augusta tried to find her a new mate, but she wasn't interested. Whack has a strong friendship with Augusta. Their close bond helped Whack through this difficult time. This is another puzzle, designed to compare how New Caledonian crows and Kia solve problems. Whack represents the crows, and for the Kia, this is Kermit. Their reward, a peanut. There are 4 different ways to solve the puzzle. Just pull the string to get the peanut out through the hole. Drop a ball down a chute to dislodge it. Prod the nut with a stick. Or open the door and reach inside. The first time both birds see the puzzle, they make the same choice. They just pull the string. But when the birds use one choice, the researchers take that solution away. What will they do next? Whack uses the stick to poke the nut free, but this isn't a surprise. In the wild, New Caledonian crows use tools to reach their food. Poking out large juicy grubs from rotten wood. So Whack's next attempt on the puzzle is to use the stick. Kia don't use tools in the wild, but Kermit figures out a solution using the ball and chute. Again, the researchers remove the option that's been used. For Whack, the hole for the stick is taped over. Whack has to try something else, so she tries the ball and chute. With 2 choices left, Kermit just opens the door, reaches inside, and takes the peanut. But Whack won't use the door and stick her head through the hole. She's a crow and very cautious, so she finds another way. She still opens the door, but rather than reach inside, she uses the stick to poke the nut free. A different solution again. Kermit's last option is the stick, but his curved beak makes it very hard to hold the stick. Yet he still sees this as a solution, even though it's not easy. He's not going to give up. Both birds solved all 4 parts of the puzzle, but in different ways, showing how their natural lifestyles influence the way they solve problems. Kermit's determination to reach the peanut with the stick reflects the Kia's natural persistence. In the wild, Kia need determination to get food that might be hard to reach. A food source could be anywhere. They explore under rocks, investigating anything unfamiliar if there's a chance of finding something to eat, however small. They're adaptable and fascinated by the new or untried. So give a group of young Kias some toys, and they play for hours. Researchers noticed that the Kia often tried to put one object inside another. So they give them something else to do, a selection of tubes fixed to the floor. The younger Kia are fascinated, trying to put the toys into the tubes. There's no food reward, just curiosity. And they seem to get better at guessing which toys fit which tubes, or not. So have the Kia learned anything from their play sessions? A peanut stuck in a tube gives the Kia a different game, tasty food and a new puzzle to solve. The younger birds approach the puzzle first. This one studies the problem from all angles. She picks up a block. But it's too big. Obviously. She then selects the one block that fits the tube. Only the birds that had played earlier with the tubes and toys can solve this on their own. Their play has helped them. They take information learned one way and apply it to reaching food. This is a similar puzzle. The reward is in plain sight. But the tube is too long. The food can't be reached. The catch can be released by dropping a stone onto it. To do that, the crow has to know how the catch works, which she doesn't. The researchers replace the tube with a shorter one. Now the crow can reach the catch. Knowing how it works, can she solve the original puzzle? Yes, she can. She's realized she can release the catch by dropping the stone onto it. She applies her understanding of how the catch works to a different problem. This is flexible thinking. Irmgard Teschke from the Max Planck Institute sets a puzzle using hooks. Understanding how a hook works is harder than it looks. Even chimps find this difficult and use trial and error or guesswork. Sets up the puzzle so that a wrong guess means no second chance. The hooks are covered by a plastic sheet. Choose wrong and the other hook slides out of reach. No possibility of trial and error. This crow seems to get it right away. But was it a lucky guess? The study has only just begun, and will repeat this test many more times with different crows before she can publish the results. This is new research in action, but the results look promising. There's an even harder version of the puzzle. One of the hooks is broken. This really tests whether the crow understands how the hooks work. She has to look at the puzzle and visualize the solution. She pulls the correct hook first time. Must run more tests, but it does seem that New Caledonian crows can solve a problem that defeats chimps. Being adaptable means some birds make themselves at home in some unexpected places, such as London. Rose-ringed parakeets should be found in Pakistan and India, but have now invaded London gardens. We don't know how they got here, but some say they were pets that were released from a London flat by rock star Jimi Hendrix. A nice story, if true. There were a few in London in the 1960s, but now there are tens of thousands. They've thrived because of their intelligence and adaptability. Every evening they roost together in huge flocks. There are 9,000 in this roost alone. Researchers estimate the population in London at 30,000. Living together in flocks is common in birds. Among the crows, rooks forage in groups during the day. In the evening, they come together to roost in huge flocks for the night. Scientists think that forming social relationships within big groups could drive the intelligence of chimps and dolphins. Can this also be true for birds? A small colony at Strasbourg is helping researchers find out what happens in these groups. Valérie Dufour of the University of Strasbourg used to study great apes, but now applies the same methods and tests to studying birds. She watches how they interact with each other and analyzes the results. Valérie found a social network as complex as that of any monkeys or apes, with a clear structure and close friendships. But how do the birds interact with each other? Valérie uses another test from her work with apes. There are two ways to remove the ball and get the reward. Pull it out, or push it in. One bird is trained to pull the ball, and half the rooks are allowed to watch. When these birds try the puzzle, they all do the same and pull the ball. Meanwhile, the other half are watching a bird trained to use the other solution, to push the ball. The rooks learn how to solve the puzzle by watching other rooks. Learning by watching another is considered very sophisticated thinking in great apes, but these rooks are doing just that. Some scientists even call them feathered apes. So when the rooks gather at night, they're learning from each other, affirming friendships, maintaining the structure of the group. These roosts are huge. 60,000 birds perch in these trees. We've met the intelligent superbrains, the parrots and crows, but now scientists are finding other birds are surprisingly smart. Konrad Lorenz was convinced his geese did most things by instinct. But like parrots and crows, geese are social. In the same place that Lorenz studied his geese, Isabella Scheiber of the University of Vienna shows that there's a lot more to the goose mind than basic instinct. Geese have a clear hierarchy, and the test explores how they understand the relationships. There are 7 colours in a row, each with a higher value than the one next to it. The geese don't see the complete row. They only see adjacent pairs. Green is higher than yellow, so the green box contains a treat. The goose learns this pair. Purple is higher than red, and the goose learns this pair. Once the geese have learnt all the pairs, the next stage is to see if they understand the whole row. Have they just learnt the adjacent pairs, or have they built up the order of all the colours from the pairs? They're given the pairs that are not next to each other in the row. If the goose only remembers the adjacent pairs, then given these new pairs, they will just guess. But if they visualise the whole row, they'll choose the card with the higher value. They're given the test again, this time with no food reward. Over and over again, the geese choose the higher value card. They understand the order of the whole row. We used to think that only great apes can do this, but the geese solve it almost as quickly as the apes. Yet geese must be able to understand a hierarchy because they live in family groups within a large flock. But unlike apes with their big brains, bird brains must be small and light, because birds fly. Knowing their place in the social hierarchy is vital for geese. We shouldn't be surprised they can solve the puzzle with the coloured cards. Operating in groups means that problems that can't be solved by one bird alone can be solved together. Kea live in social groups with complex relationships. In this puzzle, the Kea must work together. No one Kea can lift the lid off the food box. But if a Kea sits on the other end of the seesaw, the lid rises and the rest get to feed. After a while, this Kea hops off the seat and another takes its place. Eventually, each Kea gets something to eat. Living in a big group needs a way of sharing information. Communication. Gannet colonies are deafening. Thousands of birds all calling to each other, trying to be heard above the din. Waiting on the nest, a female is calling to her mate who will recognize her unique sound. He must follow her voice. If he lands in the wrong place, he won't receive a friendly welcome. But how do they recognize their mate's call above the screeching of the other birds? Gannets seem to do this in the same way that we recognize a person's voice or follow one conversation at a cocktail party. Bird calls carry very complex and detailed information, and they reinforce the bond between individuals. We're only just beginning to understand how complex birdsong really is. Kea have a rich variety of calls only now being studied in the wild. Raoul Schwing from the University of Auckland records their calls to build up a library of their different sounds. He's found that some calls are only used in association with another. There's a structure to their calls. So if the calls have a structure, follow a pattern, does that mean that Kea have a grammar? Grammar has been well studied in human languages. It depends on understanding and using basic rules and patterns. Here's a general rule. These complex blocks have two basic shapes, round or square. The rule is, round, square is correct. Round, round, square is wrong. The correct pattern creates a reward. The screen turns green. Humans can do this correctly from a very young age. But can the Kea? In the Heidelhoff Research Center, they tried the same puzzle. This is Elvira. She has been shown that 4 blocks arranged round, square is correct. Touching the correct answer on the screen releases the treat. She seems to find this easy, but is she just learning patterns, or does she understand the rule? When shown a row of 6 blocks, she picks the right answer immediately. Elvira is using a rule rather than a visual memory. This is only the first year of a 5-year study, cutting-edge research, but it seems that Kea can apply rules to new arrangements. More tests will reveal how much the birds understand. Remember the starlings? Even with their tiny brains, they could maneuver in huge flocks. And these tiny brains create very complex songs. They're natural mimics, and fascinated by new sounds, they take songs from anywhere. As well as being a bird trainer, Lloyd is an accomplished pianist, and his starlings love to hear him play. Sometimes they sing along. They even impressed the most famous composer of all, Mozart. He wrote a piano concerto that included this tune. Just a month after he'd written it, Mozart was in a pet shop and heard a starling singing this tune. The bird had made one change, a G sharp instead of a G natural. Mozart was so enchanted, he wrote down the starling's version, and he added underneath, Das war schön. It was beautiful. Where the starling had heard the tune, no one knows. As well as singing complex songs, birds use vision to communicate. Jackdaws are very social members of the crow family, and Augusta von Bayern studies their behavior. She's fascinated by their eyes, which are different from other crows. They have a white iris around the dark pupil. Augusta wondered if this was linked to communication and designed a test to work with one of her closest jackdaws, Dooley. Food is hidden under one of two cups. Then Augusta gives Dooley a clue. She looks at the correct cup. Dooley reads Augusta's eye movements and chooses the right cup. Dooley can follow another creature's gaze. She understands where Augusta is looking and looks there herself. This is very sophisticated. Jackdaws are even more sensitive than chimps to the human gaze. And it shows how important relationships are to a jackdaw. Dooley will only do this with a human she trusts. We're now going to try a much harder test, one that even children find difficult. At the center of the test, a choice. They're given a chocolate, and their mothers explain they can either eat one chocolate now or not eat it, wait for 5 minutes, and have 2 chocolates. Understanding and planning for the future seems natural to us, but it's very hard to do, if not impossible. This little boy couldn't wait. For those that try to wait, 5 minutes is a long time with a chocolate right in front of them. They try ignoring it or distracting themselves. Or even bending the rules. At last, the time is up, and here's the reward: 2 chocolates. Being able to imagine the future and trade something they have now for something better then only develops in humans at about 3.5. But can a raven understand a future trade? This is Rumo. He likes bread, but he prefers cheese. And he can wait to make a trade. He keeps a piece of bread not eating it so he can trade it for the cheese he prefers. Sometimes Rumo drops the bread to make waiting easier, like the children looking away from the chocolate. Researchers found that the more the raven likes the particular food, the longer they will wait. Rumo really likes cheese, so he waits a full 5 minutes to exchange the bread for the cheese. But if the food on offer is one he doesn't like a grape, he won't trade. He just eats the bread. When birds have more food than they can eat, they hide it so they can return to it later. Rumo does the same, as do most crows. But ravens also do something strange. They hide useless things like toys. It's not edible, so why do they do it? Researchers at the Konrad Lorenz Institute try to find out. Two researchers watch the ravens hide their toys. And the ravens know they're being watched. One of the researchers goes into the aviary in full view of the raven. She approaches the hiding place. She looks at the toy, but leaves it where it is. The second researcher goes into the aviary. But she is a thief. The next time the ravens were given food, they were watched by the honest researcher. And they hid the food in plain view. But when the thief watched them, the ravens hid their food out of her sight. There's a reason that they hide their trinkets. They're testing the researchers to find out who is honest and who is a thief. Ravens in the wild do the same thing. They hide useless objects like conkers to test other ravens. They're finding out who is likely to steal their food. The research work at the Konrad Lorenz Institute shows that ravens can imagine what someone else is intending. They understand the perspective of another. This is a very controversial idea, especially when applied to birds. But the scientists who suggest this are now working on something even more controversial. Thomas Bugniar and his research team at Heidelhof are now studying one of the most hotly debated areas in all animal behavior: emotion. They found that a distressed raven appears to be comforted by a close friend. They suggest that ravens show empathy, a very controversial word to use about a bird. But Lloyd would agree with them. When Lloyd's been away for a few days, Bran is excited to see him back.
You moaning at me? Yes, you're cross, aren't you, because I left you?
Then he gets angry with Lloyd.
You're angry.
But eventually, Bran takes hold of Lloyd's finger and won't let go. Bran enjoys really close contact with Lloyd, which needs a lot of trust for both of them. This can sometimes go on for an hour before Bran lets go. Then, Lloyd is forgiven. In just a few short years, our understanding of the bird mind has completely changed. Now that we've started to look, is there anything the bird brain can't do? Perhaps one day, bird brain won't be an insult. It will become a compliment.